controlled by the British. All the countries in Africa controlled by the British. And we are celebrating. We are celebrating the 70-year rulership of a woman who has caused more harm to African people globally. We are celebrating the rulership of a woman who has caused more harm to African people globally than almost any single person you can name. What she did to African people since 1952 is worse than what any other leader has ever done to a people in history aside from enslavement itself. And if you want to say she's only the face, she don't make the decisions, well, she damn sure didn't stop it either. She didn't stop the assassination of Dedan Kimathi. She didn't stop the torture of the Kenyan Land and Freedom Army. She didn't stop the overthrow of Osajafo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. She didn't stop the murders of Steve Biko, the incarceration of Robert Sobukwe. So many African leaders around the world lost their lives as a result of Queen Elizabeth II. And we got the authority. And I see Negroes in the chat defending the Queen. I see Negroes in the chat defending the Queen. This is how you know we as African people are at an all-time low. This is how you know that we as African people are at an all-time low. I don't care if British imperialism did not start with her. British imperialism in my life was ran by her. I've never seen a Jew defend the Nazi regime. I've never seen a European Jew defend the Nazi regime, but here go Negropeans on here defending the Queen of England against crimes against African people and humanity. We are in trouble. And to my African leaders, you should be embarrassed. To the former and current British colonies in the Caribbean islands, you should be embarrassed. To my African leaders in Africa of the former British colonies, you should be embarrassed to be celebrating the Queen's Jubilee when that woman oversaw the execution, the torture, the massacre, the lynchings, the castrations, the incarcerations of black people for the last 70 years. Ghana doesn't get her independence until 57. Ghana doesn't get her independence until 57. The Queen was already on the throne when Ghana got her independence. This woman is the face of neo-colonialism. Even if you want to scapegoat her predecessors, you can't scapegoat the fact that she is the face and the mother of the neo-colonization of the African continent and the British Islands. If you want to scapegoat somebody else for colonization and slavery, if you want to scapegoat somebody else for colonization and slavery, you cannot scapegoat the fact that she was on the throne in post-colonial Africa, which makes her the face and the force and the power behind the neo-colonization of Africa. How much money are Anglophone African countries paying the Queen right now? How much of the annual income, the annual revenue of former Anglophone British colonies in Africa, how much money is Nigeria paying the Queen every year? How much money is Ghana paying the Queen every year? How much money is Kenya paying the Queen every year? How much money is Malawi paying the Queen every year? How in the hell can African countries celebrate a woman? How can African countries celebrate a woman who is robbing you blind by making you pay a debt that she actually owes to you? African countries are paying debts to European countries that they should be paying to Africa, and you got the audacity to celebrate. You got the audacity to celebrate. We are disrespected as a race because we take no honor in standing up against our oppressors. We are disrespected as a race because we take no honor in speaking truth to power. We are disrespected as a race because we take no honor in clarifying the historical record. Brothers and sisters, I suggest you get a book on African colonization and you study African colonization from 1952 to 2022. I want you to get a good book on the history of neocolonialism. Read Osagyefo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's Neocolonial. Read it. Why are we celebrating a woman who's responsible for the rape and oppression of millions? Africa is in the condition she's in right now because of the Queen of England. Africa is in the condition right now because of the Queen of England. Y'all want to know why Africa is so backwards? Shout out to my Africans. Let me defend my continental African brothers and sisters right now. Let me defend my continental African brothers and sisters right now. Let me defend my continental African brothers and sisters right now. The reason Africa is still in the condition she is in 70 years later, 70 years later, it'll be 70 years since Ghana's independence in 2027. 65 years later, Africa's still in the condition she's in because the Queen of England are making the former British colonies pay reparations to Britain. How in the hell can an African country be forced to pay reparations to the country that enslaved her people, dehumanized her people, destroyed her culture, raped her resources, dominated her land? And the former British colonies of Africa are paying reparations to the British Crown. How in the hell is that even possible? How in the hell is that even possible? And we want to turn around and honor the woman who sits on the throne of global white supremacy. Honor the woman who is the face and the figure and the force behind global African oppression right now. The British Empire controlled 25% of the world's people in 1914. The British Empire controlled 25% of the land and resources of the entire earth by 1920. And we got the audacity to act like this woman was some sort of blessing to African people. Let me say this. A historically ignorant people have no right to be free. A historically ignorant